Well, I have 6 o'clock on my clock, so I'm going to go ahead and start this meeting. Thank you very much for joining this 179th Street Access Management Circulation Plan Open House that is occurring as a hybrid in-person and virtual meeting. My name is Gary Albrecht. I'm a long-range transportation planner with Clark County Public Works Transportation Planning and the project manager. This is a recorded meeting. We will not be recording any cameras, but the presentation and audio will be recorded. We have posted the presentation on our project webpage. We are starting on time and we will end on time at 7:30 p.m. And just for the folks that are in the room, the restrooms are out this door to the hallway, down to the left, and then another left. So if you need to use them, feel free to use them when you need them. Otherwise, I'll march on. Thank you. We will have question and answer sessions during this presentation. And then for attendees using their computer or WebEx application on a mobile device, if you would like to speak, please utilize the raise hand icon. The location of the hand may depend on the device you are using, but is often on the bottom right or bottom center of your screen. The look of the hand may also vary, such as the examples shown on the screen. If you do not see a hand icon, click on the circle and the 3 dots to find it. Staff will acknowledge those attendees during the public comment period who have raised their hand by selecting the hand icon. When you are acknowledged, Cindy Gonzalez on our staff will request you to unmute, and you will see a pop-up message on your screen. All virtual attendees will automatically join muted. Cindy will unmute when it is time to speak. Click the unmute option and then begin speaking. Then for attendees using the telephone audio-only option, you need to press *3 on your phone's number panel to raise your hand. And when you are acknowledged, Cindy will request to unmute you, and you will hear a message on your phone about the request. Follow the directions you hear on the phone to finish the unmuting process and begin public speaking. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person in order to accommodate all speakers. Staff will acknowledge those who have raised their hand and request to unmute one at a time. And we will repeat this slide right before each opportunity to ask questions and make comments. Next slide. That's not working. Clicking's not clicking. Here's this evening's agenda. With me today is Chuck Green from OTAC, engineering consultant, Ria Flisikowski and Amanda Deering from DKS Planning and Engineering Consultants are with us. Mike Salas from Community Planning, he's a planner with us. He's here. Scott Sawyer, Public Works Project Manager. Rob Klug, the traffic engineer. Ken Lader is our acting county engineer. Cindy Gonzalez, Public Works Outreach Assistant. Kaylee McClacken Burton is our Community Engagement and Inclusion Manager. Marilee McCall is our Neighborhood Outreach Coordinator, and Amber Emery is our Deputy County Manager. She's here with us this evening as well. So our agenda will include a history of recent activities on 179th Street corridor, a discussion of the access management and circulation plan, projects occurring on 179th Street, a summary of what we heard this evening, and next steps about timelines. There we go. This slide discusses ground rules to ensure that everyone is heard. The slide deck has 3 question and answer sessions. After each section, time is allotted for questions and answers. Please limit the questions, comments to 3 minutes or less so everyone has an opportunity to be heard. We have sent out notifications to everyone living in the surrounding 5 neighborhood associations. Please respect opinions of others and let them speak even if you don't agree. If we run out of time for comments and questions, please put your questions on the parking lot cards at this meeting or in the chat function in the virtual meeting. The staff will post questions and answers with responses on the project webpage within 2 weeks of this meeting. Can you advance? There we go. Thank you. Prior to 2020, this area was in urban holding, meaning that urban levels of development could not occur. In 2020, urban holding was removed by Clark County Council, and urban levels of development could occur on approximately 2,200 acres of land. As a result of removing urban holding, an access management and circulation plan was created. As a docket item that is part of the annual review process of amending the Clark County Comprehensive Growth Management Plan, which is a 20-year plan to guide growth and development. This plan was placed on Community Planning and Public Works work program in 2020. Clark County Public Works convened 2 advisory committees to guide their development of the access management and circulation plan. The Stakeholder Committee and Technical Advisory Committee. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on February 17, 2022. They voted 6-0 to recommend to the County Council that it approve the proposed amendments to the Arterial Atlas and the adoption of the 179th Street Access Management and Circulation Plan. Council hearings were held on April 19th and May 3rd, 2022. On May 25th, during Clark County Council time, Council agreed to remove this access management plan from the 2021 annual review cycle, effectively putting it on hold. The Council has directed staff to provide additional public input about the plan, which is why we're holding this public open house. Thank you. Northeast 179th Street is a principal arterial that provides the primary east-west corridor off I-5 and has served circulation needs from northwest 11th Avenue on the west to northeast 72nd Avenue on the east since the 1980s. Principal arterials are designed to carry large volumes of traffic at 24,000 average daily trips. They move high volumes of traffic connecting to major activity centers. Direct access is minimal and controlled. This image shows a street profile of how the roadway would look. We are currently planning to include a multi-use path on the north and south sides of 179th Street to match up with Washington State Department of Transportation. Throughout this presentation, I'll just call them WSDOT, just to make it simpler. WSDOT interchange project that will include multi-use paths on both sides of the road. You advance. Love it when technology works. There we go, thank you. 179th Street corridor is inside the Vancouver urban growth boundary. And that's the blue on the map on the right. That's the unincorporated area of the Vancouver's urban growth boundary. In 2004 and 2007, Clark County Comprehensive Growth Management Plan, the 20-year plan, added the underlying comprehensive plan designations and zoning to approximately 2,200 acres near the I-5 179th Street interchange area and placed it in urban holding. The urban zoning designations included commercial, industrial, office, residential, mixed use, low and medium density residential zoning. The Arterial Atlas unites the long-range roadway system plan with the land use plan for Clark County. It is a supporting document of the Clark County's Comprehensive Growth Management Plan. Urban development is occurring out there off of 179th Street. We have development agreements in place for current projects to help facilitate growth. Developers have agreed to pay for needed transportation improvements to build their projects. On this map, so the green areas that are in the blue, those are the development agreements that we have in place. So on the far right of 179th Street towards 50th, that is the Woodbrook Homes subdivision. And M&H subdivision is below that on about 40th on 179th Street. And then to the far west, that is the North Haven, Woolham subdivision. That's occurring right now. And then there's a mixed-use commercial site. That's the right off I-5 and 179th. That's the Three Creeks Achillean project, the subdivision that's going in. And there are other developments that are occurring in process at the same time. So Able Fence is on Northeast 10th Avenue, so it's directly across from the Achillean project. And then 179th Street apartments, east and west, are occurring on the north side of 179th Street near northeast 22nd Avenue, the future 22nd Avenue, so just to the right of the green blob there near I-5. And then Mountain Estates is occurring at northeast 50th Avenue. The development is occurring in the area. Next slide, please, Cindy. Clark County's Comprehensive Growth Management Plan has a list of 20-year transportation capital projects that are needed for future growth based on the adopted land use. The 20-year plan is implemented through the 6-year Transportation Improvement Program, and we call that the TIP. The projects in this map are from the 20-year plan and included in the 6-year TIP. The projects in red are currently obligated projects, which means a project is one that currently is generally committed to being completed. And the blue segment projects are in the TIP that are programmed, moving towards fully funded status. The number 3 is currently in design, anticipated construction to start in 2026. This slide demonstrates the need to improve Northeast 179th to a 4-lane principal arterial. So based on the existing zoning uses in the table on the left and forecasted new vehicle trips on the right, this corridor is expecting to see approximately 50,000 new daily vehicle trips traveling along all or part of 179th Street. Currently, there are about 6,000 vehicles a day west of I-5 and a little over 8,000 vehicles per day east of I-5. My clicker's working, yay. So the next 4 slides will discuss how this access management circulation plan was developed. So looking at number 1 and 2 on the map, the east-west circulation north of 179th Street was reviewed but was not able to connect from northeast Delfell Road on the east side to northwest 11th Avenue on the west side because of existing wetlands, leaving a gap in the proposed neighborhood circulator. No new transportation circulation was proposed south of the Clark County Fairgrounds and Amphitheater. This slide covers the 179th Street between I-5 and northeast 29th Avenue. Number 1 shows the proposed plan would realign the existing proposed road as on the arterial atlas right now, moving it to the south and curving the road as requested by the developer in the Three Creeks planned unit development. Number 2 moves the proposed neighborhood circulator to avoid established wetlands. We use number 3 to show that we have identified 4 proposed roundabout locations near 12th Avenue, 15th Avenue, 22nd Avenue, which is across from Whipple Creek condominiums, and northeast 29th Avenue. This slide and the next one show proposed improvements between 29th and 50th Avenue, along with issues and considerations for circulation and access. Number 1 aligns the east-west circulator with the west side of 29th Avenue. Number 2 adds a new circulator for access back to 179th Street. And number 3 shows proposed driveways converted to right turn only due to topography and sight distance, which improves safety. Number 4 is northeast 37th Avenue proposes to upgrade the road from a local access road to a neighborhood circulator. Number 5 creates new circulation from northeast 174th Street back to 179th Street to the south, hopefully taking some pressure off 174th to carry current and future traffic. This slide discusses plan development consideration between 29th Avenue and 50th Avenue on 179th Street. The modification on number 6 realigns the proposed road with the Woodwork planned unit development. And number 7 creates new transportation circulators for future development. Number 8 removes the proposed connection due to mapping error while developing the maps. Number 9 is an east-west connection in the 179th Street area was not proposed because of significant drainage and topography issues along northeast 50th Avenue to provide circulation for the mixed-use zone. So where the number 9 is on the map, that whole area is mixed-use zoning, and to the left of that is residential. So instead, we're proposing a new north-south commercial industrial access road to serve as a buffer between the residential mixed-use zonings connecting into the Woodbrook planned unit development. So this is our first question and answer session. We will begin this session with answering questions from people attending the open house in person. And next we will answer online questions. So please limit questions, comments to 3 minutes or less so everyone has an opportunity to be heard. And please respect opinions and let them speak even if you don't agree. If we run out of time for comments and questions, please put your questions on the parking lot cards at this meeting or in the chat function in the virtual meeting. So we'll start with the people in the room first. So if you have a question, please come up to the podium and answer it, and we'll put on the, I'll leave the button on for you, and I will unmute myself. Yeah, just so everyone else out in the audience, because we've got limited camera options, so there's a camera pointer right here. That's why I asked you to come up and talk and ask your question. Then you could step away and then staff will comment on your question.
I just wanted a point of clarification. You said that 179th is being designed for 24,000 trips per day?
Yes.
But yet your other slide shows that we're going to have 48,000 on 179th. So how are we going to make this up?
That's a great question. So I mentioned the 50,000 daily new trips on all or part of it. So it doesn't mean that all 50,000 is going to go in one spot. So it'll be spread out throughout the whole area. So more traffic is coming based on the land use. So that's the answer right there. It's just more traffic is coming.
I live in the Whipple Creek condo 2 apartments and have since '98. The question we're having, as traffic increases, and we've noticed that, heavy major truck traffic runs that road now. Question we have, is there any plans in the county to put up sound barriers to prevent both the sound from all the trucks and the vehicles go on there and also the pollution from them, as they've done along the concrete barriers they've done along a lot of the freeways and other residential neighborhoods?
Good evening. You're asking about sound barriers as part of the bigger projects as they move forward. Sound barriers are something that is a part of the process for design of projects that have federal funds associated with them. We will be applying for federal funds. There are standards in those types of projects and the grants associated with them to determine where they're put in. So as part of the design of the project, it will include an analysis to determine if and where sound barriers would need to be put in. That would be the design team while it's under design. And right now, we're not under design for that part of it. Yeah. Does that answer your question, sir? Thank you.
I'm Bob Heiberg and live on 179th Street and 47th Avenue. One of the things I've been opposed to is the right turn only. They have a 5th lane and they're putting shrubs in it, and they're also going to level out 179th, taking a lot of the humps and bumps out of it that you see. So I'm not so concerned about sight distance as they are. What I am concerned about is having to go in the wrong direction. The other thing that bothers me is when we go out of there most of the time, we take 205, we take 50th. So a lot of this traffic is not going to take 179th. And my big problem is I think they ought to have left turn lanes to avoid having to go in the wrong direction, because the other problem is they've got multi-lane roundabouts. They're not large enough in diameter. So if you're going to make what would be a U-turn or a left turn in heavy traffic, you're going to have a real problem making a transition from the right lane when you go in to the left lane when you go into the right lane when you want to turn left or go all the way around. So I guess I think this is not a 502 or a 503. It's not an urban highway. It's a local arterial, and I would like to see left turns allowed. It'd save a lot of time, and I know I'd like to a show of hands of everybody would like to see left turn from their street rather than right turn only. All right, thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Lavanis, and I live next door to Bob on 179th and 47th Avenue. And one of the comments at the beginning by Gary was he mentioned that there were 5 neighborhood associations that were included in the outreach for this meeting. And I was curious, what avenues other than the one mailer did you use to outreach? You had mentioned in the beginning that there were 5 neighborhoods that you reached out to about this meeting tonight. And I was curious what the avenues were that you reached out to folks about. And how you gathered the people that were going to be invited tonight.
That's fine, thank you for the clarification on that. So, well, we sent out mailers to about 25,000 people that live in the 5 neighborhood associations. So we sent them to people who own the houses and who actually have a physical address, and then the renters also got one too. So it went to the site and the owner. So that's how we put that out. And then we also put it on Nextdoor, is that right? And then Facebook as well. That's how we got communication out. And in the media, yes, we've had, yeah, there have been a couple Columbian articles as well. And it went out to the individual neighborhood leaders, and I've heard that they put them on their individual pages as well. So on Monday, I met with the NAC, the Neighborhood Association, Clark County Council, and gave this presentation to them too. So they conceivably went out and shared it with everyone in their neighborhoods as well. Are there other questions? Come on up.
I live on Northwest 179th Street. I reached out to Clark County about the increased traffic on 179th Street and all the dump trucks that are speeding and using their air brakes. It's very disruptive. We're not used to it. It's changed drastically, and they said there's nothing they can do about it. And I disagree. There's got to be an avenue to slow people down, flashing signs to make them stick to the speed limit, signs for no air brakes, whatever they are. There's no reason why we can't have that. I'm not asking them to decrease the speed limit. I'm asking them to enforce the speed limit and to stop the air brakes there, because we live just before a hill, and they're taking all this dirt somewhere, and they're going past our houses and using their air brakes all the time. Very disruptive. So what do we do? Who do we contact? Sheriff told us to contact the Clark County for a flashing speed sign, because there's only so many of them, and they can't do it.
So we do have a program where we do move the flashing speed warning signs around. Did we put them in for a couple? Oh. Can you hear me now? So we have a program for putting in the flashing radar feedback signs. We have 6 of them. I'm here to ask the public to please not vandalize them, because we have 6, 4 of which work right now, because we had 2 out on Lucha Falls Road and they were destroyed by people in that area. They're not cheap. So if you see those signs, please let them be. But we have 4 of them that are currently working. We're working to get some more. We are putting them around in areas for a couple weeks at a time because they have a short-term effect to driver behavior. After a while, people become used to them, and so we have them on a program where we rotate them around. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk to you on the side to find out exactly where on 179th you'd like them, and we'll put them on the list and try to find a way to prioritize it.
And the air brake?
Did
we get a sign for the air brake?
So,
Jake brake?
So Jake brakes, we need to be careful about any type of sign associated with air brakes because air brakes are far safer than using the actual brakes and having the brake air pressure bleed out. We cannot put in a sign that says no Jake brakes because Jake brakes is a Jacobs engineering product and they will sue us.
44,
Right. What we do is we do put out signs that say, per county code, no unmuffled air brakes.
Okay.
Or compression brakes.
Well, I'd like to.
We can talk about that where you'd like to see that also.
Okay.
Understand that will have a limited effect because
It changed drastically. It's just horrible.
if people choose to break the law, there's not a lot we can do with static signing.
At least have that sign.
Exactly. And if you don't mind, I'll take your information. And if there are other locations that are interested, the county has a website where we actually do take in information, and I will make sure that that information is on the on the information that goes out to all of you for any time you have a concern about a pothole, a need for a stop sign, clearing out brush, any number of things like that. We actively want the public to tell us where we should go look because we have eyes, but we don't see everything. So we really appreciate it when people call us and say, hey, would you go look at this?
Hi, I live on Northwest 184th Street. And if you'll notice the map that we were looking at earlier, I think a lot of us we live in a rural community. Like, we know our neighbors, we live on properties, we have cows, we have llamas, we're rural. And if you looked at that map, it was like somebody took a map from the city of Portland and just laid it over our neighborhood. And so, you know, the county has used a lot of terminology like development will occur. There are lines on the map and this stuff. And I'm like, we actually live in this community. And I feel like there's a lot of active disenfranchisement happening. Even having the meeting here tonight, why don't we have it in our neighborhood? Also, our neighborhood association has not met since 2019. They didn't have a meeting throughout the entirety of the pandemic. We have been begging them to have a neighborhood association meeting because we found out that our president had been notified of this stuff, and she was invited to attend the planning sessions, and she never attended and didn't notify anybody else in the neighborhood association. So we were all blindsided by this in January, finding out that it had been planned for months. This to me does not seem like a coincidence that all this happened during COVID when the neighborhood associations weren't meeting, and now the meeting is down here, and first they notified 184 residents, and now they've notified 25,000. It seems like maybe some developers have paid some money, and maybe they don't care what the residents think. Maybe they don't care about the residents of unincorporated Clark County. That's how I feel. Does anybody else feel like that?
Come on up. So, you know, development is occurring. So we're not saying that it's not going to occur because it's an urban zoned land. All of it is. No one has to develop their land, but the property is developing. There is more traffic coming to the area. That's why we're creating an access management and circulation plan. That's all we're trying to do. So, and come on up. Yeah, so, you know, we looked at having it at the fairgrounds. a couple months ago. So in May, when the council decided to postpone this and have more input from the public, COVID cases started to come on the rise again. So we decided to have an in-person virtual meeting. And having it at the fairgrounds was not really, the fairgrounds isn't conducive to having a hybrid in-person meeting. It's a great facility, but it's just not set up for us to have a hybrid virtual meeting, an in-person virtual meeting. That's why we chose it out here.
Hi, my name is Andy Bauman, and I live near Jessica and Bob, and the area on the map, I think it was one of the last slides where it showed like 10 and 9 and that kind of thing. They're laying a whole bunch of, or it's proposed to lay a whole bunch of roads in that area. It's an extreme concentration of roads. And looking at that map and how it really hasn't changed since we had the council meeting, I just wonder what the purpose of this meeting is. My understanding was that the purpose of this process was a reset where concerns of the community and the council would be addressed. So for example, the council expressed, in response to the community, the council expressed concerns about the budget. We haven't gotten to that part, but I would really like to know how the plan has changed to address budget concerns. The council, and this is more cogent, the council expressed frustration that the public did not participate in this process, including questioning the legitimacy of the Stakeholder Committee that decided where some of the things are going to go. I'm just wondering what will be done to remedy this process? Has anything been done? It doesn't seem like anything has changed. So I guess what I'm trying to say is nothing has changed since we went to the council meeting and this process is reset. It doesn't seem like a new process. It just seems like we're being informed of the same thing we were informed about previously, when I know my expectation was, I think other people's here expectation was, and the council's expectation was, that the process would change for community input to actually affect how this is being laid out. And what actually seems to be happening is they're saying, this is how it's laid out, same as it was laid out before. Did anyone ask anyone here what they thought about this? Was anyone here on the Stakeholder Committee? Was anyone that you know involved in figuring out how that should be laid out? There's also a lot of things on there that are placed as fact, like the roundabouts have to go here and this needs to be aligned to that. Well, my understanding was that there was a set of configurations as possibilities before this started. Has anyone seen any of the alternative configurations, or has anyone been offered explanation of why those particular configurations weren't used? I haven't. That's what I was expecting today. So I just wondered why that isn't the case.
We have invited the public in here. So we've had a planning commission hearing in February. We had 2 council hearings. So the public has been available to testify and make comments. So yeah, I'm well aware of that. No, sir. No, sir. We're doing what the council has directed us to do. They told us to go back and ask the public for input. So that's why we're holding these open houses. So I will take all this input and I will let the council know, and they get to make the choice of what happens next. So just to cut to the chase, so what I'm going to end up doing is, so I'll put all this stuff, all these questions and comments into a table and a format and let the council see it in a work session coming up in September. And they can decide, what they want to do with the plan. Either send it back and have it updated with, with our consultants, or move it forward through the adoption process. It's up to the council. It's not up to staff, and it never has been up to staff. So right, but the council will ask you to reset the process. This isn't a reset. No, sir. The explanation. That is not what they asked us, sir. We can talk offline about this, okay? Okay, thank you. All right, so the council asked for more public involvement, and that's what they did. They didn't ask us to reset anything. They wanted more input from the public, and that's what we're doing. And I can talk to you afterwards, but this time isn't the appropriate time to be doing this. Anybody else? Come on up.
I'm Lon Hanula. I live on 179th Street, 78 and a half years. That makes me probably the oldest person on that street. The development's going to happen. I don't care what we do or what anybody says. I've seen it in this county. It's going to continue to happen. Farming is dead. It's not going to be here. All we're doing is looking at, is there anybody that was here 12 years ago, of any of you people at all, during the meetings that we had about widening 179th Street, approximately 12 years ago? I went to a meeting here, a meeting at the fire station, a meeting at the Washington University there, and we talked about this left turn lane business. They were going to put 4 lanes from the freeway to 29th. Then it was going to be just 3 lanes, which with the left turn lane in the middle, from 29th to 50th. They hadn't made any plans to go to 72nd at that particular point. What happened to that plan? Why did we go to all these meetings and all the commissioners and everybody that was there at all these meetings and everything? They said, well, this winter we'll come by your property, you know, get your right of way. And never happened. But they did Richfield. They did the whole section of Richfield. All the money went to there instead. Now, all of a sudden, we're back to this 4 lanes, and now we've added not only 4 lanes, with the medium being fancy in the middle, and then, of course, we got to have a bike lane on both sides, and then we got to have a sidewalk on both sides. That's a lot of property and stuff out there. I didn't know that it was designed for that particular thing. Why not the 3 lanes the way it was supposed to be with left turn lane? That solves a lot of problems, because that's the problem now. People making a left turn have to wait. The people behind them have to wait. They were going to come in, they were going to cut down all those hills. I haven't heard a thing about what they're going to do on that. Nobody has said a word. I live at the top of the hill. They told me they were going to take 10 feet out. Now I heard it's 4 foot out. Then it was 6 foot out. Nobody has anything concise to say about anything. It just keeps changing from time to time to time. And the development is already all there. The people, the contractors have bought up almost every piece of property that you could possibly buy. Behind me, there's going to be 600-700 homes. Across the street, there's going to be another 40. And then up by the Double J Tax Act and all that stuff, that's all developed right now. They're buying up property left and right. They bought every piece but me and a few people, and they want to keep buying my property. I told them, I'm going to die there. I don't care. Do what you want with it.
You know, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened with the past conversations with 3 lanes, but right now it's designated as a 4-lane principal arterial.
Just like was on up here.
That's how it's designed. Yes, sir. It's 100-foot width, 100-foot right of way. So, and I will definitely take these concerns about not having a left turn ability on this whole route. And I will share that with the county council. So, and I
got a big motorhome and stuff. When I get out of there, I got to go down to 29th, and then I got to go around that round with 60-foot vehicle to get around there. That ought to be wonderful. The people will just love me.
Yeah. What time are you going? I'll make sure. All right. Anybody else have any questions, or we just move on? Yeah. Come on up.
Hey there, Eric Cook. I live on 179th, right by 50th. So I think my biggest concern with this whole process is just the perceived lack of communication that we've had. I was unaware of the first 2 meetings in this process, and I came in the 3rd when the process was a little bit further along, and learned that the property that I had just purchased was going to be sliced up, and you know, a lot of the usable land is going to be devoted to a road and a roundabout. So I guess, you know, my concern is, how do we affect where things go? Can we affect where things go? Is there a way for us to say, hey, you know, this roundabout impacts 4 existing houses on the map, whereas, you know, okay, this development exits here, it's just vacant land, there's nothing here. How do we have that conversation? Because it seems like the map, like a couple of people have said, it's just the map. There's no consideration for where people's houses are, how much of the usable land you're going to be taking and putting a road on. So, you know, had I known about this thing 3 days earlier before signing my papers, maybe I wouldn't have bought that property. So, you know, that's my concern.
Anyone else have any comments, questions?
Hi, my name is Joey Ricketts. I live east on 179th Street. I understand that they're developing, but why are they doing such shoddy work on the repairs on those roads when they dig those ditches out? It is teeth jarring to go through there, and they leave it like that. Anybody that's heading east is driving over into the Whipple Creek turn lanes to avoid that. It is dangerous. People are trying to pull out. There's rock all over the road. They finally did sweep it, but it's jarring. And I don't know what it's doing to the suspension of our cars and the danger that's involved, but they allowed us to leave it like that, and I don't understand why. Maybe you have an answer.
I don't have an answer for you, sir. Sorry, thank you for the input. I don't know what to say.
We're talking about chuck holes and stuff, that you get a whole you guys about the chuck holes and find out this is worse than chuck holes. I mean, I'm telling you that. So I don't know who else did that.
Thank you for the question. I'm Ken Lader, the acting county engineer. Thank you all for being here tonight. I get there's a lot of concern. I want to answer your question specifically because we are aware of some of the development that's going on and that the trench work is being left in a condition that's not really drivable. And especially near Whipple Creek there, coming up the hill, that traffic was going over into the right turn lane, and it was an unsafe condition. I believe we've rectified that now for that particular condition. And if that's not the case, let me know.
The road that we get here.
Okay, yeah.
It's like we put 100 pieces of patchwork in all different.
Yeah, okay. So I work directly with our folks in the utility permitting, so for that work that's permitted in the right-of-way, and I will talk with them again to make sure that we're addressing it. We are somewhat limited in what we can do with the contractors and how much teeth we have, and we will we'll make sure that we have them temporarily pave it back. So. We are the ones with the teeth, and it's a fight regularly to make sure that it's done in a safe condition. I can tell you, I'm new to this position. It's a little intimidating to see all your faces and your concerns, but I appreciate that you came here tonight, and I'm committed to making sure that our roads are safe in these conditions, and that you're not pulling out. So I'm hearing your concern, and we will work with those contractors to make sure that they're buttoning stuff up the way they should. And that's all I can say. I mean, I appreciate that comment, and that may be very true, and that means that we have a ways to go on solving that.
Maybe put a couple chairs on
Yeah. All right, well, thank you.
Mr. Cook, Yeah, that's fine. So Mr. Cook's property, for that specific property, his current house probably sits 15 feet from the existing road, existing pavement. It's extremely close. So, and you know, by looking at just that house and the 100-foot right-of-way required for that, it's just not going to work very well for that spot. Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm probably safe to say that the owner that sold it knew exactly what was going on, and they didn't tell you, and probably the real estate agent knew. Well, no, so you know what? This is an access management circulation plan. So all we're doing is making a plan to accommodate growth. I don't know where it is in the design, and I'm not sure what's going to happen when it comes time for development. I don't know. I can't answer that because it's all unknown at this time. I'm sorry, what's that?
Hi.
All right.
So we're trying to have a virtual meeting. So anytime you want to speak, the attendees on our virtual side can also hear. So when you're shouting from across the room, we're leaving the people virtually without hearing your comments. So we do kind of need to keep moving forward. So we just want to have these last three come up and finish with their questions, and then we'll move to the next part of Gary's presentation.
Yes, I live on 174th Street, where they want to put 45th Avenue through my property, from 174th to 179th. Well, they don't want to put it there. They want me to put it there if the property develops. And I strenuously have objected. I put my objections in writing previously. I would ask the group to look at the M&H subdivision decision that's a quarter of a mile to the south, where the hearings examiner made the decision that if you have a collector street, you do not need to have a secondary access road. Now, I assume from looking at the map, 45th Avenue roundabout is partially there to provide a secondary access into the subdivision to the north. It's got 600 homes under development. And so I'm questioning why that roundabout specifically is necessary in light of particular of the M&H subdivision. It seems to set the precedent. It occurred after this development, not prior. And so it seems like there's an opportunity there to revisit that location. The second question I would pose is, there is the Mill Creek Boulevard, the new street that's being built for the subdivision to the north, Woodbrook. It seems like that would be the proper place for a roundabout because of the amount of traffic that's going to utilize Mill Creek Avenue. I mean, a few years, when you turn that Mill Creek Avenue into a right-in, right-out, the commissioner's going to hear a lot. There's going to be thousands of people that are going to be really upset. And so if the 45th Avenue roundabout, the people to the north will have access to the new roads in Woodbrook to the north. The property to the south, Mr. Cook, could have access out to the southeast if the county would assist in getting permission from the private street that exists owners to allow him to access out to the southeast.
Thank you, Dean, for your input.
My name is Jim Byrne. Hi, Gary. I want to bring up 2 points. One is concurrency. The State Growth Management Act, and there is a county code that talks about concurrency, which says you can't build developments until the infrastructure is in place first. Well, I see a bunch of developments going up on either side of 179th Street, and the arterial plan is not complete. It's not in operation. So I'm somewhat confused how all this building is occurring now before the infrastructure is in place. When the Board of Commissioners decided to overturn the urban holding area, I think it was 2019, it was estimated that it would cost $66 million for the road work. So I'm curious as to where the county is with that money. Does the county have the $66 million? And that was for 2019 dollars to complete the infrastructure. And then I have another quick point, is the Hovey Consulting Company, which the county hired to look at the overall plan, they said that 47%, nearly half of the parcels, have some sort of critical area tied with them. So I'm just concerned that wetlands, fish and wildlife habitat area, those critical areas have been taken into consideration with this overall plan. So if you could bring those points to the county commissioners, I would appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. So this is a 6-year plan. So all the money isn't on the table at the moment. It's coming throughout the years. So these improvements, the developments, they're occurring because they're building their half-street improvement. So they're building what the code requires it to do. Did you, another question? We'll address that. Okay. Yeah, did you want to come up and talk about that?
Gary, so we're running out of time, and there's one person that has their hand up here virtually that I'd like to.
Okay. Can we let Sue speak real quick?
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well, she can be next, and then we'll get to Eugene, and then we'll move to the next part.
Great, thank you. My name's Sue Marshall. I live at 4316 Northwest 169th on the other side, just 10 blocks south of 179th. So Jim stole my thunder a little bit about concurrency. I think there's some of us that are still back to the urban holding never really should have been lifted, because as soon as, a few months after it was agreed by the council that there was money there to fund things, that there was an additional 60 million, and then, there was several more million on top of that. So I don't think it's ever been demonstrated that you've identified where the funding is coming. And the plan, the transportation plan that was, we looked at, that was available at that time, is far different than the plan that is available now, with like a dozen roundabouts. And never was it considered that 179th would become 4 lanes in determining concurrency and where that money would come from. So I think that, maybe it's too late to put that urban holding back on it, but I think the public deserves to understand how concurrency is going to be met at this point with this plan that you're currently looking at. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and request that Eugene unmute and then ask their question, and then we can move forward, Gary. Eugene? Hello.
Eugene? Okay, so it doesn't look like they are unmuting, so if you just want to go ahead and continue with the presentation. I'm going to do one more person. Teresa, I think, had raised her hand. Go ahead, Teresa.
I would like to echo what Jim and Sue just said. And having been involved in this and watching it for the last only maybe 6 or 8 months, and listening to the residents around there, it's disturbing when people talk about infractions by trucks and everything else as we allow development, whether it's developers building houses or mining that's going on in the county. And the response is that we really can't enforce that trucks and things are, breaking. I mean, you're going past the speed limit and not following environmental restraints and things that they should be doing, and that we just sort of have to accept it because we can't really enforce it and we can't really give consequences because one, we don't have the money, or we don't know who's going to do it, or we don't have the staff. So as we watch all this development happen around the county, i.e. whether it's housing developments or other things, that we have to continually hear that the public is subjected to developers who really don't have to follow any kind of expectations or anything. Thank you.
That it? Okay.
So yeah, sorry, we're going to go ahead and continue moving forward with the presentation just because we want to make sure we are respectful of everyone's time, and we want to end at 7:30 and not keep everyone here late. So go ahead, Gary.
This slide discusses current projects west of I-5 and planned projects. These projects are not part of the circulation plan and will have more public involvement in the future for these specific projects. These projects are not far enough in the design process to begin accepting public input. Number one on the left is indicating the intersection improvements are occurring at the North Haven subdivision. Number two shows the realignment of Northeast Delfell Road. Construction is anticipated to start in 2026. Number three indicates the I-5 179th Street interchange improvements. That is a WashDOT project. Connections onto 179th Street from Northeast 10th Avenue and Union Road will be closed as part of the interchange improvement project. Construction is anticipated to start in 2027. In the future, county staff and WashDOT will work together to create a transportation management plan so residents and businesses can continue to have access during construction. And number four shows a planned closure of the connection at Northeast 10th Avenue and Northeast 179th Street as part of this access management and circulation plan. Next slide, please, Cindy. Thank you. This slide illustrates the initial planning stages of the realignment of Northeast Delfell Road and the proposed roundabout planned for completion in 2026. Yeah. This one would be, let's see, 2026.
Just make sure that you repeat the question since.
Yes,
Yeah.
so the timing of this one is in 2026. So the question was, for 179th, underneath going across to the east, has it been designed? No. So that is a WashDOT project. So it's in design and they're not starting it yet. So it'll happen in the future. The presentation, so the chances of getting copies of this, the presentation is included on the project webpage right now. Yes, of course.
So my name is Scott
Here,
Sawyer.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Move out of the way.
Yeah, yeah. So my name is Scott Sawyer. What am I doing? Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I am Scott Sawyer. I'm with Clark County Public Works Department. What am I doing wrong? Oh, for crying out loud. Sit out. I am on the implementation side of the house, okay? So I'm not on the planning side of the house. So they tell me what to build, I get it built. Okay, so let's take that first of all. So we've got a number of projects that we're going to be talking about. Tonight, it's just going to be a snapshot, okay? We've got open houses. We've got a public outreach plan coming up where you're going to have an opportunity to see more of this, to be able to talk about it. We'll be able to explain to you about the traffic modeling that we've done to make sure that we have enough lanes for all the movement, because we know this area is crazy when you have amphitheaters, when you have the fair, all of those things. You have to take that in consideration in the design. All right, so I want to just make sure you know that tonight we're looking at the planning side of the house. We will be talking about the implementation side of the house soon. All right, our plan right now is to have on the east side, or west side, I'm sorry, an open house coming up. Most likely this one I believe is going to be more in April, and then as we start talking more on the east side, April, yeah. Yeah, we need this amount of time to get into the design so we can actually show you what we're doing. On the east side, we're hoping for March of 2023 to have open house to kind of talk about those projects. We've already had one preliminary open house for 29th and 50th, but we're going to continue to also focus on 15th and the improvements there, as well as 179th between 15th and 29th. We'll bring you up to speed on what's going on at 29th and then what's going to happen at 50th. Okay? So that's the other thing we're going to be working with is the Washington State Department of Transportation. As Gary mentioned, that improvement is proposed to begin construction at this point, and again, please take it with a grain of salt, at this point in 2027. They don't get their money to start the design process until July of 2023. Then they get into it hard and heavy and start that design process. So what we're trying to do now is work with them to try to do all of this construction and still allow everybody to be able to get home and get through. It's a challenge. Yeah. So, yeah, and please understand, I'm in the implementation side, but I'm going to take a shot at that, and the planner will forgive me. So we brought in a bunch of smart people to develop a plan, right? So what we're trying to do now is share that plan with you and try to get you to say, okay, this is not going to work and here's why. So that the people that are the decision makers can say, guys, this is not going to work. We need to make changes. So first you've got to have that plan developed. Then you got to bring in the people to make those comments. Yeah. So No, I'm gonna let the planner come back. That's what's best.
Again, so this is a virtual meeting as well, so please don't just shout out. You need to, please hold your comments. Yes, ma'am, I understand what you're saying, but this is a virtual in-person meeting, and it's only fair for the people in the virtual world to hear your voice as well. So I want your voice to be heard, and they can't hear your voice when there's no microphone near you. That's all I'm trying to say. So we should just take your answer. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So when it's time for Sure, okay. Yeah, actually, so that's where we're at right now. This is our second question and answer session. We'll begin this session with answering questions from people attending the open house, and then next we'll go online to the online participants. Did you want to come up now, ma'am, and speak? Please do.
I have participated in many open houses and planning commission meetings, and I'm infuriated by this. Lots of the statements that I have heard from Chuck from OTAC and Gary have been very misleading, and I feel like the public is very misinformed by this. I would like to offer a little bit of clarification from my point of view. We see that Gary here is running the meeting and stuff, but there is a private for-profit company called OTAC who is very much involved in this. They don't have the same requirements that the government has to the public. There potentially would be, financial interest for them to gain by working with developers, for which many of these roads are planned. If you look on the plan, it says, like, an example is the Woodbrook Road. I cannot remember the name. There's a road that's being realigned to line up with a Woodbrook development house. And in my opinion, that is the opposite of how it should work. It should be, their development should realign with existing homes. We shouldn't have to change our property line so that they can build a non-existent property into property. That is backwards and wrong. The other thing, too, that if you read the OTAC contracts, which I highly encourage everyone to do, because they don't have a responsibility, a civic responsibility to us, the public, you read the contract, it's just the minimal there are minimal requirements in there. I'll give you an example. I'm not a scientist, but one of the things was they had to sample the creek because a lot of wetlands are being impacted, and the sample size was a study of 1. And so anybody who does any science, anything, knows a study of 1 is a joke. So I'm just very irritated by this because there were many things that the council had expressed frustration about. They had asked, how is funding being addressed now that it's almost doubled? They had concerns at the Stakeholder Committee there were 10 people, 3 from Public Works. Basically, 8 people were not public people, and 2 of the 10 people were public people, and they tried to play it off like they reached out to the stakeholders. So 2 members of the public, to me, does not mean a stakeholder committee, and that's what they continue to express to all of us at all of these meetings, and they continue to slide it under with the counselors. So that is my frustration. In addition to, for us, we are being impacted because they would like to put 2 roads behind our property and to the west side of our property that we can't even access. Our driveway doesn't go that way, and it's going to cut out my kids' playground, our trees, all of our trees go through our property, and the reason is because they need a circulator road for a property or development behind us that already had approval to not require those roads. So there's really no justification. It looks like they really just took the easy way out. They drew some lines on the map, got their $1.4 million for the 179th Street and 50th development or circulator plan, and $1.4 million for the 29th and 179th Street plan, and called it a day. Nothing has changed. I would like to know what has changed, because you say you had the planning meeting for February for which you reached out to the public. What has changed from that? Because people talked and you guys voted unanimously for it anyway. So what's changed? Zero has changed. That's it. There was one thing actually did change, but you have chalked it up as a mapping oversight. So what has changed? And what's the plan? How can we impact the change? Because now you're telling us that you give the plan to the councilors make the decisions. Well, we all know that's not true. You guys make the decisions. Actually, Chuck Green at OTAC makes the decisions, who has no accountability to the rest of us. So what has changed? How can we make the change? What is the plan after this?
Thank you very much. So I just want to reiterate, so what the plan is this public input is going to go in front of the county council. County council will give us direction and guidance on what the next steps are. So it could either be, A, go back and work with a consultant, revise the plan, and go back and get more input, and then we would end up going back into the planning commission. They would make a recommendation on the revisions, and then it would go back forward to the county council for another hearing. Or they can, they can either take the plan and move it forward and go for adoption at a later date. It all depends on what they want to do. So I'm not sure. We're at whatever it is their guidance they decide to provide to us. Then we'll hear that in September at the work session. Sir, did you want to come up?
Yeah, first, I understand it's a planning study. And so I'm hoping that the input that we're all giving you is taken, because you got to start somewhere. And we're seeing this. I don't like it. I'm on 179th and 26th. I live in transportation. That's my job. Right in, right out of that stretch up to 29th, we can find a much better approach than that. I can tell you that right now. The base the base traffic at 48,000, where are you coming up with those numbers? And are you getting those because of the secondary and cumulative impacts because of the development? Or how's the traffic base set? Okay? Because we're saying it's 4-lane based on traffic, right? Right? And so understanding how you're starting with the base traffic, and then having a realistic discussion about what's the true development impacts. And when you get into the environmental process, you have to be definitive about the secondary and cumulative impacts that the road is going to create. And so some of the discussion before about, I have to have the infrastructure in place first, which I don't know the laws of that, so I'm going to let the other smart people figure it out. But transportation creates or induces growth. Okay? That's a fact. You build a 4-lane road, there's more people going to come. And so I just need to make sure that our numbers are good, the base traffic year and the projected traffic that you're looking at. I understand there's putting some multi-use and, the high rises there off 179th. There's lots of traffic coming, and I get that it is a part of the overall development, but I still question that base traffic, because that is what's creating the 4-lane section, where everything else is 3-lane, but this one section is 4, and I live there, and you're going to tell me I got it right in, right out? I'm going to have trouble with that.
Fine. So when it comes to trips, this table here, so it's the land use. The land use is driving the function of the road. So the trips on the left, the IL, that's industrial land, the BP is business park, PF is public facility, CC is community commercial, MX is mixed use. So we look at MX. So the daily trips coming out of that, the 6,930. So we have something that's called an ITE manual, Institute of Traffic Engineering. So the trips are in the manual based on the land use. So how many trips are going to come out of the land based on the acreage. So that's how this is created and looked at. So, I mean, it's really geeky, but, I mean, that's your answer, and it gets really technical, and there are a lot of trips based on the land use that are expecting to happen.
Gary, can we answer 2 questions on the phone before we
Okay.
move on? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and request that David unmute. And
Did you ask for me to be unmuted? This is David McDonald.
yes, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify one quick thing. Was the violations that we were talking about over on Whipple Creek area on 11th and 179th? Gary, can you clarify that for me?
Did you hear?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
Sure. My question was, they were talking about roadway violations in the right-hand turn lane over by Whipple Creek, and I wondered if that was at Whipple Creek and 11th Avenue.
Ken Lader, the acting county engineer, is going to come up and answer that question for me.
That'd be great. Thanks, Ken.
You're asking about the location of where we were having traffic go over into the right turn lane. That was on the east side of the freeway, past 15th Avenue.
Okay, so they're where they're talking about the crossing of Whipple Creek going through the Three Creeks area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Up the hill there.
So,
and I'm not sure if that was the area that you were talking about, so, yeah. Yep.
I've seen some violations at 179th and 11th Avenue where the roadways are destroyed and you can go through on 11th headed southbound from 179th, where they've tried to manipulate the roadway there a little bit. I think my question...
And what was your question about that?
So my question for county staff is this. A lot of what is being driven here are development regulations that are passed by the Development and Engineering Advisory Board. And yet the members of the Development, Engineering, and Advisory Board who are passing these regulations are also the developers along this roadway. For instance, Terry Willem is on the Development Engineering Advisory Board, and it's his project at 11th Avenue and 179th that is going in, and the lawyer for him is Mr. Housley, who is also on that board. So my question for you when you were talking about enforcement is it difficult for you to go to the people on your own advisory board and tell them that they're violating these rules, or members of their community, their building industry association are violating these rules, and they should fix them? Because what I've heard a lot tonight is we apologize, we're sorry, and we can't enforce it. So I'm wondering why that is.
Yeah, and I don't have a good answer. But what I can do is take your information and make sure that we get back to you.
So, and Ken, as much as I appreciate that you're new in this position, I've been doing this for 30 years in this area. I live near 179. And I have seen this area be from included in the urban growth boundary back in 1994 until now. And I have heard the same thing from a number of different people over the years is, we don't have an answer and we'll get back to you. And I think that the people in this audience need something from the county that says, we do actually care about you. We are actually listening to you. And we're not just listening to the development community who controls what regulations are passed that they can then comply with. So if I have any advice for you coming to this community and to answer to these people who you said you were a little intimidated by, is give them the truth. Thank you.
I appreciate that, David. Thank you. And all I want to say to that is I care about the community. I live in it myself. I've been here for over 20 years with my family. And as the acting county engineer right now, it's my job to make sure that the roads are safe, that you're safe, and that we do maintain our roads and bridges. And I do care about that, and anybody in here that wants to reach out to me, or anybody that's online listening right now, please get a hold of me. I don't have all the answers right now. I'm learning a lot about the position, but I am here to support the community, and I know that the council is here, you know, for the people. So we're, you know, reach out to me. I'll be talking with our utility permit folks again right after the meeting, so thank you.
Cindy, are there any more online? Yeah.
I don't know if they got my, hello, Rhonda? Okay, they're not in meeting, so we can move forward. I mean, we only have another 10 minutes and you have more. We have a couple of people.
Sure. So like I said earlier, so we were going to stop at 7:30 right on time. So yeah, come on up and ask a quick question then. We've got a few minutes left.
In regard to your traffic flow plan, how many people that get to 50th are going to go south on 50th? How many are going to go north on 50th? How many are going to go, my point is not all these people are going to take 179th Street west. You take all the demographics of all of these houses, say they're all going west. That's not necessarily true. Do you have a count for 50th Avenue? I personally think you're probably going to have to expand 50th to 4 lanes, and Salmon Creek, clear to 29th. I think you already are going to expand Salmon Creek, judging by what I saw. And so I'd like to know what the vehicle counts are for 50th north and west, or south.
Yeah, well, thank you. So 50th and 179th is the edge of the urban growth boundary.
Right.
So that's rural to the east.
That's true, but
And nothing's going to happen at that area because it's rural to the east. All right, so we need, in the essence of time, we need to move on. Okay.
I've been sitting here for almost an hour and a half and a lot of feedback from people and stuff. I'd like to know what vehicle we're going to get the feedback from you guys after tonight's meeting. You have phone numbers, you have addresses, are you going to send out mailers with a conclusion, or what? How do we know what your response is to tonight's issues? Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. As I've mentioned earlier, so we'll take all these public comments and input, and they will go on to our Transportation Planning Project webpage. So within 2 weeks, I'll have them up on our webpage. And then after that, the next step is for us to go in front of the County Council at a work session on September 28th, which is on our website as well. Sure. Okay, so is that why you're coming up?
Would you like to come to dinner? Would you like to come over? Would
No,
you like
thank
to,
you.
like, get together?
Yeah.
Okay, so, a lot of us,
Here you go.
a lot of us, like, we're a line on the map. It touches our property line. There's some of us in the room that it goes through our properties, and Planning Committee, come to our properties. Come say hello. Come talk to us. Come see the land that you're going to change in this way. And counselors, you're invited too. I'm a pretty good cook. We can figure this out. Like, let's have a barbecue. Let's get together. And like, you guys going away and figuring it out and then coming back to us in a few months, it's not working. We're asking to be engaged. We're asking for you to come to our properties, to talk to us, to walk the lines on the map, to see how close it is to our front doors. We're asking you to talk with us about how much it's going to cost, how much your land you're taking, what it means to our neighbors, what it means to our neighborhood. This is what we're asking for. We're asking for you to actually engage with us.
Thank you. You know, as Scott Sawyer mentioned earlier, certain stretches of this, of 179th Street are not quite there in design, and when they get moved farther along, then we'll start reaching out for public input. So the conversation isn't over. So right now, we're just here talking about the access management and circulation plan. That's all we're doing. So, you know, there's just a few minutes left of this, and I'm not sure how we're going to figure this out. All right. Cindy, can you keep advancing the slides? So the next steps, all right. So we have our open public house right now, and then by August 31st, we will include the public open house feedback on our Public Works Transportation Planning webpage. And then on September 28th, we'll have a Clark County Council work session. And it's to be determined whether what's going to happen with the future of the 179th Street Access Management and Circulation Plan. It is open to the public, and you know, yes. So public comment would not be available at a work session, but they're welcome to attend the work session. That's good. Yeah, thank you. So the question was, is how do we engage in the process? Marilee McCall would like to answer that. Would you go ahead?
I can't completely answer that. Hi, I'm Marilee McCall. I run the neighborhood program outreach, and I don't run the neighborhood associations. Neighborhood associations are independent of the county, so I cannot tell them what to do and what not to do. But the Fairgrounds Neighborhood Association now is going to have a meeting in September. They are, the president is choosing, at this point, she's discussing having a virtual-only meeting. I'm trying to encourage her to have a in-person meeting. I believe that it needs to be an in-person meeting since this involves maps. I think that it needs to have people present. I cannot force that to happen, but I am working on that right now. Hopefully that meeting will happen before the September 28th work session, which will allow you time to discuss, gather comments, and then present comments from your neighborhood association to the council. I know that that neighborhood has not met over the last 2 years during the pandemic. I have been pushing the last 2 months to get this back active again, and she has responded. She is working on getting something together. I would like to ask one question of people that are here. We have limited resources to be able to outreach to you. We can do postcards direct to your house, or we use Nextdoor, or we use our Twitter and our Facebook pages. Not everybody uses computers or Nextdoor or social media, and so what I've been hearing from the other neighborhood associations is they want a postcard mailed directly to their house, that is the most effective thing. Is that what the agreement is of the folks that are here? I'm seeing a lot of nodded heads. Okay. Okay, I will work with the president so that we can get something going. There is a page for each of the neighborhood associations on our county webpage, and you can go to clark.law.gov/neighborhoods, and it'll take you right to all of our neighborhood pages. And you can always call me if there's any problem with where you're not being able to get a hold of someone in your neighborhood association. You can call me, and I'll get you connected.
Well, so right now it's 7:29, and, I had a slide on here for a summary of what I've heard and what we've heard so far this evening. So what I've heard so far is that definitely most everyone wants to have a left-hand turn option. And everyone would like to have more opportunities for input into the plan. I feel like they were involved in the plan and want to have more interaction with the actual development of the plan. And trying to figure out the trips. I mean, is that big of a road really necessary? Why did it happen? And I have a list. I was taking notes. Chuck Green was taking notes, and everyone else, all the other staff were taking notes. We will have these notes, these comments on our planning webpage within 2 weeks. And unfortunately, we're out of time, and I'm happy to answer any. Yeah, you can get a hold of me here. There's my contact information. So I'm available to answer any questions. You could either call me or email me, and we've got comment sheets as well. And that's it. Thank you all for taking your time to come out to us and talk with us at this meeting. Of course, absolutely. Yeah, right.
Thank you all for coming. I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting now. Please go ahead and email Gary directly if you have any questions in regards to the planning. And